think I'd be able to get another video out, but this video will be coming out a little bit later on today, probably very late, but make sure you guys stick around for the full content. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. I really and truly don't know why this is the case, but why are we talking about Joy Reid again?
Do that in
I have seen tapes of what Moms for Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings and you read graphic stuff.
Disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
There's America used to understand that there's something called age-appropriate content.
Right, and here's my question again.
On movies.
Again.
Well, for the most part, because the woman is actually a nut, and I don't think she's just some nut that's sent out there to do the propaganda, but obviously a nut herself. Now, we've been talking a lot about this person in previous videos. We've been posting things that she has said. Of course, something like saying that the problem in Iowa, the people who voted for Donald Trump are white Christians, even though the actual racial demographics of the state itself are pretty well white. A lot like the state of New Hampshire, which is like 97% white. But once again, here we are talking about books and the left's attempt to say that the right just wants to burn books, when it's actually the left who originally did this back before World War II, because as we all know, National Socialism is just another extension of Marxism, which is definitely on the left, as well as fascism and communism. They're really all the same thing when you actually boil it down to the actual inventor of fascism, who was Giovanni Gentili. But still, that is not what we are talking about in this video. What we're doing is we're talking about a mama bear, Tiffany Justice of Moms for Liberty, going on Joy Reid's show and obviously getting interrupted every 2 seconds. But still at the same time, Joy Reid may have actually screwed herself and may have actually screwed the left in the future, because the best way that a parent can find out about what's being taught in schools is by simply getting involved and going to go see for themselves, which Joy Reid at the very, very end of the interview actually does unwittingly, unknowingly, without actually realizing that most of the viewers of MSNBC don't really know what's actually going on due to the propaganda. But we will get to that here in a second. So I am showing you guys a TikTok that was released the other day. This guy is actually telling these kids, which, by the way, remember, TikTok is it swings left. It aims for a much, much younger audience. This guy is teaching these kids how to tuck. Kids, quite frankly, don't need to be hearing this stuff. Kids, quite frankly, don't need to be getting involved in this type of thing. Kids, quite frankly, don't need to be exposed to this type of thing. But the fact of the matter is this here. These people are obviously nuts, okay? And I've been saying for a while that there's actually an agenda, and that agenda is this here. Conservatives, since 1996, have had roughly 2 kids per household versus liberal households where they only have 1. Conservatives tend to have their kids. Liberals tend to abort their kids. So it's no surprise that they are pulling this crap when they decide to go into elementary schools and say, yes, we want your children to be exposed to this type of nonsense. Before we go any further, and before we get on this issue, I want to go ahead and say something right quick. Why is it that the left always accuse you of what it is that they are guilty of? Let's roll this.
He liked to say the word dildo and said that a lot. But the fact is, George M. Johnson, this is a book about George M. Johnson. Some of these books are autobiographical, some of them are not. Some of the key books that have been banned, Lori Halls Anderson's Speak, Perks of Being a Wallflower, by Stephen Chbosky.
My kids read them.
They have similar themes in them. Some of them are sexual, some of them are not, but they are experiential. They're real books. And kids see themselves in these books. It's disingenuous to call it all about sex. Kids know all about sex. Kids have always...
If you don't take anything out of that, it's definitely that guy basically saying that the mom had sex on the brain. Yeah, this kind of reminds me of every time somebody brings up the fact that Destiny's soon-to-be ex-wife runs around on him and he allows that because in reality, what really happened was, in that case, was that she would not get into a relationship with him unless he allowed the open marriage. It reminds me of him saying, why are you always talking about my wife? Well, it's pretty daggone easy. It's because your wife puts out, and she puts out to everybody not named you. You see these sexually explicit books being put inside elementary schools. As a parent, you're probably going to be a little bit alarmed by this. But of course, Joy Reid, and we'll be playing some stuff from this interview here in a second, she has got this thing where she's got to constantly interrupt. Let's take a look at this first clip.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read? What is your expertise?
What a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for
do.
you. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school? That's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No,
Wait,
we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me a question. So
Sure.
I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main?
Now, before Joy Reid attempts to answer the question, I want you to think to yourself, what would she say? What would she actually do? Okay, what would she actually say? Would she actually answer Miss Justice? Would she actually answer that? Well, pay attention.
Expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You
the
just
name of the
remembered
author
very
doesn't.
specific names.
Joy.
Here's my
We're
question.
talking about
Here's my
strap.
question.
You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer your
Great.
question.
I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation. Okay,
great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert in this book,
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
This book is a full context story, as you said, of the author's experience. Why is it your right or a Moms for Liberty activist's right to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author?
But we'll talk about the situation that Miss Justice was talking about the trauma and past, the art, of course, that the author was. So we'll get to that here in a second, but let's proceed. Obviously, she did not. She chose to ask Miss Justice, or Mrs. Justice, what the main character's name was. Well, the main character is obviously the author of the book, and of course the book they're talking about is This Boy is Blue. There's also books like Gender Queer, and I already know this video may get a yellow $, and of course I'm also going to be posting on Rumble just in case that happens. It'll be posted there tomorrow, but this will be posted tonight. The thing is this right here, though. We have gotten to a point in society where these people think it's actually okay to throw this type of explicit content in front of our children. Now, I can already hear somebody arguing, well, what about when they get a little bit older? Okay, well, let's just go ahead and say this right now. Elementary school kids, especially kindergarten through 5 or kindergarten through 6, should definitely not be exposed to this stuff. I do not believe that kids should be exposed to this K through 10. I think, if anything, this type of stuff should probably be given to them at the college level, which to me is actually stupid because what point is gender studies? What's the actual real honest-to-God point about it? Nobody really and truly cares about it. Now, of course, I can already hear somebody saying, well, what about kids who've got I don't know, some gender dysphoria or things like that. Well, don't worry. We'll get to that here in a second. As I've always said, I always think that those kids need to be helped and not exactly put through the meat grinder of having certain things removed from them. Chances are they do desist before they turn the age of 18, so I think that the child needs to be allowed to grow up a little bit. Obviously, parents do need to get involved. But still, though, giving the child these types of books or allowing them to have access to these books are not exactly helping the situation. If anything, it makes it a lot worse. And even if a child does, in fact, desist when they get older and they just become gay or they possibly become straight, it's still going to cause emotional problems later on in life because there's going to be a lot of things that, quite frankly, people do not understand. You see, a lot of psychological problems, they don't develop until later on in life. And next thing you know, you've got therapy sessions wanting to know why it was that mama and daddy allowed what to happen. You kind of picking up on a pattern. If you're going after a child very, very early, you're trying to traumatize them very early, eventually it affects them later on in life. That right there is something that either the left does not seem to understand or the radical left is intentionally trying to do, which of course is sick, twisted, disgusting, and vile. But let's listen to the Mark Davis lookalike run our mouth about this again. Something I wanted to say in the previous, and I mean the previous section of this video, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now. The reason why it is that these books are made by these types of writers who I think are sick is that it's exactly kind of what she said. Some trauma, some past trauma, something happened to this child, maybe it's hard. Now, I can already hear somebody saying that they sell these little elementary school books, so they have these they have these books in these elementary schools that these kids can get access to, where an author is giving you their personal story growing up. But does any one of these kids need to hear about some form of sexual related trauma that the author had at a very young age? Do they really and truly need this? No, they do not. It's, as I said before, it's about an agenda. They want to normalize this type of stuff in elementary schools so that way your child has basically pretty much open to the idea of whatever. But as I've said before, conservatives have 2 kids per 1 liberal household. Now, let me ask you a question. And by the way, we're going to be doing a video on indoctrination here in the future because I did come across this clip here.
I think abortion should be unrestricted. And I think when somebody finds out in pregnancy, or how far along that they are when someone finds out, they should be able to get an abortion if they want to. And for some people, that is full term. if I can't get abortion training here, if I can't perform abortions in my career, I will not stay in Wisconsin. And a lot of my colleagues who are on the same track agree.
All right, thank you. That'll do nothing to help our shortages.
Basically, you allowed him to kill the child. What it really boils down to is a complete total lack of accountability. But this is the type of crap that kids are obviously being taught, that are being taught at a very young age. At college, your head's being filled up with all kinds of crazy, radical ideas. But indoctrination at the end of the day only goes so far. The thing is this right here, at some point in time, parents do in fact get involved, and I advise parents do get involved, even though somebody, I don't have any kids myself, but still at the same time, parents do need to get involved. Now, do I think that people without kids should be allowed to criticize parents? Not really, except maybe certain special circumstances where the answer is so obvious. Like I've always said when it comes to school shootings, one of the things that you find out the most is that a child was basically allowed to be desensitized. Well, why would a child be allowed to be desensitized? Probably because parents were not as involved. Chances are, when these types of books do in fact come home, and obviously Joy Reid, a person with no children, a very, very much a liberal atheist, racial, I have no idea what to say, very obviously very, very bigoted, hateful, spiteful woman, these people automatically believe that they are above you. It's called a massive level of smugness. They think that everything is right for you. It's basically when the cities say that they're better than you and they matter a lot more, when in reality, the cities are actually the consumer areas, where it is the rural areas, the producer areas. Basically what they're doing is they're buying the hand that feeds them. They don't seem to understand that without us, they could not live. And of course, now they think that they can actually point to people, regular American people, and say, you work for us, when that's not exactly the case. Fact of the matter is that these people are pushing this type of agenda because it's the worldview that they have. It's an extremely crazy and extremely insane worldview. And Mama Bear here is obviously calling them out for it, and she's willing to go through the meat grinder. But here's the thing, though. This very last segment, I think, to me, is probably the most telling about the entire situation, because it also shows you exactly how dumb these people really and truly are.
Liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your right to say they can't?
So again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And each parent, each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask you one more time.
Right.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story? Why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member, they've experienced
and your proof of that is what?
You just said that
What's
if a child feels seen by this story. You just said that if a child feels seen by this story. What I'm saying, Joy,
you're now making assumptions about it.
No, but if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on a library
shelf. Now you're literally creating a story
behind
a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida. Okay. I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is called the opt. Yeah, please. I'm going to hand it to you. Thank you so much. It's called the opt-out form.
Okay.
An opt-out form would allow any parent, because you said you are in favor of parental rights.
I am.
It would allow any parent to opt out of their child being able to take books out of the library without their parents' permission.
Okay.
So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue,
right,
that they can make that choice, because then each parent...
A couple of very, very quick things. The release form, my child can go see it. Okay, there's a lot of problems with that. Number one, there's a very small amount of parents that would actually allow this, given the fact that they would actually know what the hell is actually in the book. Also, something else, too, is that kids have a tendency to pass said material around. So after a while, the parent is going to find out what's going on. They're going to go to the school and they're obviously going to raise hell about this. Look, if you really truly want to fix what the hell is going on in the education system, you need to get activated. You need to get involved and actually go and vote in state and local elections. You need to actually go vote in those, especially school boards. You need to actually have this discussion. This group here, Moms for Liberty, they are an activist group that wants to keep these types of books out of children's faces. Okay, they don't want their kids to be exposed to this type of nonsense. But I also think it's a pretty smug thing where one person says, well, what if my child is this certain lifestyle? Well, chances are that child is not that many of them that are this type of lifestyle. They oftentimes have a very, very high desistance rate. So at the same exact time while she is saying that, you don't seem to realize that the information does in fact contradict itself. And of course, a little bit later on in life, chances are they end up becoming just a good old-fashioned straight kid or straight adult. I mean, it's pretty well common sense if you actually look at the numbers, people. Again, sick, twisted, disgusting, and vile. That is who these people are. They're very, very much the liberal, atheistic, smug type, which we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second. These people don't have kids of their own. They believe that they have an inherent right to your children, and that there is a reason why people like Joy Reid are the way they are. Now, we'll get a little bit more psychoanalytic in later videos, especially when I start doing actual video essays, because I did say I'll do much more detailed. And, of course, they would even include some psychoanalysis involved, even though I'm not a psychologist, but still the basic, regular psychology, common sense. People do, in fact, know this, and people, if they looked at Joy Reid, obviously would know that this woman is obviously flipped the hell out. Don't want the child to read about African-American history. I mean, look, if you can't win on the issue, obviously she's got to go to her go-to or her backup, which is race. The idea, of course, is to try to make these people look like they don't want their kids exposed to anything. Look, man, when I was a kid, we got taught about slavery. And I'm older. And I've seen some of the things that were in the history books because, I do still have nieces and nephews. And I've obviously helped them out with homework assignments. I've seen that some cases, these books are actually pretty well detailed. So it's not like these kids are not getting educated on it. If anything, I'm actually more in favor of historians, like actual historians teaching kids when they are in high school and college. I think history is extremely important, needs to be taught. But still, at the same time, though, history needs to be taught to these kids, not this gender type crap that's going on in the library. I mean, kind of like I said before, the problem with a parental form or a problem with a form is that saying, well, my kid can read it, but your kid, is that the stuff eventually gets around. Therefore, eventually rendering that form useless, because I didn't say this before, I'll say it now, parents will get upset and they will eventually vote these people out. Meaning that you just wasted everybody's time once again because you've got this little fetish for going after little kids. I'm going to go ahead and play the rest of this really quick. And I'm going to tell you, with all the craziness that Joy Reid says, there's one thing, and of course I mentioned at the very, very beginning of the video, there's one thing that obviously she did not think about when she actually said it. Let's go ahead and roll this, and then I'll tell you exactly what it was.
A parent who wants their child to read a book about African-American history, then they get their
we want children to read books
Why
about
not just
African-American
opt
history,
out for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot?
First of all, I think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level. And that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools and what kids have access to. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content. The dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Let's do a back room.
Excuse me.
Let's put a curtain up in the library
First of all,
like they used
hold
to
on.
do.
One moment.
Video
One moment.
stores. Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for
and they
Liberty.
put those
the
books,
books that Moms for Liberty.
With pornography.
I know that you. I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
I have seen tapes of what Moms for Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings and you read graphic stuff.
Disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
America used to understand that there was something called age-appropriate content.
Right, and here's my question again. Again. Ruby Bridges goes to school. The question I'm having to read the book, I'm going to just hold it up so our audience can see what it looks like. This is the one for All Boys Aren't Blue, which is one of the books Moms for Liberty has.
Everyone should go and see the content in this book. That's such a good idea.
And so what happens is you can do keyword searches and find certain keywords.
Like
you can find
or anal. Or dildo.
You can find all sorts of keywords.
Of words. But
wait, hold on. Wait. Let me finish my question. Then you can answer.
Sure.
I'm going to give you time to answer, but I got to ask you first.
No, yeah. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content. The dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Let's do a back room. Let's put a curtain up in the library like they used to do.
One moment.
Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for Liberty.
The books that Moms for Liberty. With pornography.
I know that I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
When Joy put that up just now, you go out there, I encourage you to go look at the book. She's automatically assuming that everybody in the audience is going to automatically agree with her. Now, granted, you're probably thinking, well, doesn't 85% or 90% of the people who watch MSNBC, don't they agree with it? Yes, this is true, but a lot of these people are just good old-fashioned anti the orange guy. There are a lot of classical liberals out there who do have kids, and they will obviously see this book. They don't know anything about it, and they'll say, my God, I don't know if I want my child to look at this. There's a lot of moderates out there who don't want to look at this. I hear people talk about this all the time where they say something like, well, what would you do if you had a gay son? And I got posed this same question back in 2011 when I was in college, and of course the whole politics thing, because they always typically tend to go to the whole you're bigoted if you're not in favor of thing. The argument was about gays in the military or openly serving the military, and I explained that this was going to eventually become a morale issue, and next thing you know, everybody in the classroom starts marking you as anti-gay or anti-black if you don't like Obamacare. And my response to them was, well, obviously I would be heartbroken, but at the same time, though, I would still love and care for my child. That right there is what most parents do when they find out their child is living a certain lifestyle. They just continue to pray for them. They love them regardless. Some people do freeze some people out, but still at the same time, what they're doing is they're simply saying that they're simply disappointed in that. But here's another truth that a lot of people don't want to admit. Most people, especially those who claim to be pro-gay, a lot of those people are the first ones to be the most judgmental if their son or their daughter comes out. A lot of fakeness is basically what it boils down to. These people typically tend to be, I'll put it this way here, as I've said this before in a few videos, a conservative becomes a liberal once they get inside the courtroom, whereas a liberal immediately becomes a conservative once an issue hits them at home. What Joy Reid unintentionally did was she advised her audience to go check it out. Now, let me ask you a question. Joy, and I'm just bringing this up, Joy, and tell me what you think in the comments, please do. Joy loves to bring up the race card. She loves to bring up the whole race thing. And I know we're kind of taking a bit of a detour from the source material here, but still the thing is rare. She loves to play the whole race thing. So who's primarily watching her channel? Is it mostly white liberals, or is there a huge section of blacks? Well, last I checked, blacks weren't exactly down with the LGBTQ agenda. They never have been. Do you think maybe it's possible that black parents may now finally get engaged? Do you think that they might now get involved? Now, guys, I'm not talking about this issue from a Republican-Democrat issue. I'm just to be talking about this from a culture issue, okay? Don't you think it's possible maybe some black parents will finally get involved and say, I don't want my child exposed to this. It's bad enough that we got to deal with this crap every day. It's bad enough that we got biological men playing, I got to say it that way, with the algorithm, playing women's sports. Don't you think that maybe it's possible these people may, in fact, get activated and actually vote out this type of crap? Like I said before, everything starts with state and local politics. If you get a hold of state and local politics, you can change the actual culture itself and what your kids are being taught. Fact of the matter is that Joy Reid, she is so freaking smug and so freaking dumb, she did not realize that she may have actually activated the base. She may have actually activated a base of people who actually vote against this type of nonsense. And of course, she probably lost viewership too, even though this segment didn't really get a whole lot of views compared to her normal audience. Fact of the matter is, Mama Bear was 100% correct right there at the very end for saying, get involved, get encouraged, because at the end of the day, that is what you need to do. If you care about your child, you will eventually get involved. And I have a feeling you're going to see a lot more parents start to get involved here in the near future. Fact of the matter is that this nut right here, this nut job actually screwed up when she brought that book up because of her inability to actually have a serious conversation with somebody and find out what the problem was to the situation. She may have accidentally sunk her entire propaganda, which to me I think is absolutely hilarious. A lot of people have been looking at this situation, screaming Mama Bear absolutely destroyed this woman. And in reality, the truth be told is that that's not what happened here. Joy Reid destroyed herself. While this right here does look like a red pill or a black pill moment, I got to tell you right now, I think it will eventually lead to a white pill and more parents will in fact get involved. With that right there being said, guys, please tell me what you guys think in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. I'm going to try to get this video posted at 7 o'clock. If it's not posted at 7 o'clock tonight or 6, I'll try to get it posted sometime tomorrow. I got a couple of things going on today that kind of got in the way of how the schedule was going to be. So obviously, I got to get this video out at a different time. With that right there being said, though, make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.